I met this guy. Actually just recently, right? So I saw his Instagram, just like the rest of you guys. We're all on our phones all the time, and I was going through my phone looking for the best hitting advice I could give to my son, because all of you guys know I'm a basketball player. I don't know anything about baseball. I admitted that I didn't know, and I went to go find the people that do know. That's what you should do. And I came across this brother, and I was like, wow, man, I could not believe the heat that he was bringing, both in the technique of the game, but also in his high emotional intelligence and his ability to communicate with athletes and get the best out of them. So, everybody, welcome to the show, Mr. Rob Cruz. Rob, tell us your story, man. We want to know it all. We want to know about your athletic career, and we want to know about your career that led you to Complete Game, and then go into the brand a little bit. Tell us about it.
I mean, we can go into my athletic career. I mean, it was mostly youth baseball, high school basketball, high school baseball, college baseball, but my teaching career has been longer than my playing career. And but if you add it all up, from like I started playing when I was 6 years old. The first time I picked up a bat, somebody threw a bat away in the garbage. It was a broken wooden bat, and I remember me and some other kid. I could see it clear as day. Me and another kid in there who went in the garbage, took the bat out. It had some tape on it, and we were just hitting cans off the ground. That's the first time I ever swung a bat. Right. So we came from that all the way to like high tech, exit velocity, bat speed, and all these types of things, but launch angle and all this stuff. So then I ended my career in Division II baseball at Mercy College in Dobbs Ferry, New York, where I grew up. I'm from Westchester County, New York, suburb of New York City. I grew up in a very, very, very international neighborhood. A lot of diversity. So we had kids from India, Portugal, Colombia, Chile, Mexico, Jamaica, Haiti. I probably missed some countries, but our neighborhood was very, very mixed pot. Mixed pot of different cultures and different languages, different families. I'm talking about like kids I grew up with. Their parents spoke no English. Like none. So you pick up. I learned a little bit of Peruvian, learned a little bit how to speak a little bit of Indian, a little bit of, and Mexican Spanish is not the same thing as Puerto Rican Spanish. So the Puerto Ricans will say this, and the Dominicans will say something, but Mexicans will say this. I'm like, ain't that all Spanish? They're like, nah, because it's different. It's very different.
I don't want to jump ahead, but I'm going to assume that level of diversity growing up plays a role in the way you're able to coach and getting along with a bunch of people.
Absolutely. It does play a major role, because you learn how to deal with people, and you learn how to accept people for their differences, right? And see them as just another person. And without, like, if I'm working with a player who has less talent versus a player who has a little bit more ability, I could have them in the same group because they're not competing against each other, but the standard is going to be the same. So if we got to move a certain way, we got to move a certain way, whether you're playing for the University of Georgia or whether you're 10 years old playing in a little youth program in New Jersey. It doesn't really matter. The truth is still the truth. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I look at it. And when I started mostly baseball when I started getting into teaching. And then what happened was there were a lot of girls who were getting into softball. So I do mostly softball, but I do a lot of baseball also. So nobody back then, nobody really wanted to work with the girls. Mm-hmm. And it was mostly guys that were doing all the coaching. So I volunteered. I was like, well, I'll do it. So I ended up taking this 10U girls softball team in Westchester. And I took them, we didn't even have any softballs. They were hitting baseballs. And we ended up taking them to second place in a national tournament. Now for a Northeast team, that's saying something, And then two girls from that team went on to play. One went on to play at the University of Florida, where she was an All-American. Another one went on to play at Stanford University. And the success of those two players on their way up is how the word got out about what I was doing, because there was no social media. All we had was MySpace back then, so you couldn't go viral. You couldn't really go viral.
What you know about MySpace?
You don't know about that.
MySpace. Come on.
You laugh like naturally, like you know MySpace. You was like 5.
You laugh like, what? I heard about it. So their success, and every sport, it's a small world. Like, I don't know if it's phone, fax. I don't know what was going on back then. All I know is people started coming from everywhere, everywhere. And then I got coined. I got labeled this hitting guru, right? But I still had a lot to learn. I still learn. I'm still learning. So as I grow, my kids grow, my clients grow, my parents grow. It's all about information. It's all about getting the best information. It's all about growing every year. I try to get better every time I turn around. I'm trying to learn something new to make what I do better, a better way to say it, a better way to communicate it, a better way to get kids to learn it faster, a better way to get kids to learn it faster and retain it, and a better way to get kids to learn it faster, retain it, and transfer that from practice to the actual game. Mm-hmm. And then you got different speeds of the game, because as the game gets more advanced, it's a faster game. In every sport, it's just faster.
All right.
And everybody can't do it at that speed. So that's why you have Division 1, Division 2. That's why you have different levels, right? So because each level's faster. So I have the ability, and I thank God for this, but I have the ability to be able to work with players that are at a super elite level, all the way down to an 8, 9, 7-year-old, even a 6-year-old, effectively.
Yeah. And you said you started with 10U. I mean, a lot of people, you said people didn't want to coach the girls.
For softball.
Coach the girls. A lot of people don't want to coach that young. I think the reason why is because it takes a vast amount of patience to coach that level. So talk to us about that.
So here's my thing. So for me, that's a great point. I still work with 10U. I'll go work with a 10U team tomorrow. That's the best age. A lot of high-profile, quote-unquote, high-profile coaches are like, give me all the studs, give me all the superstars. But you're making it about you now. I work with 10U, competitive 10U team. When I'm working with a 10U team, I'm not only working with a team, I'm working with the parents. Because I'm coaching players, I'm coaching coaches in that same session, and I'm also coaching parents. Turn your phones on, hit record. Let's learn how to partner for the success of this kid and try to keep them in the game as long as we can so they're successful. I find that most coaches, at least in baseball and softball at the collegiate level, came from the private sector. They came from doing instruction. Because if you can work with a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and you can get them good, you can get a college player easily. Get a college player better easily. And I think a lot of college players, a lot of college programs, some programs are like, we recruit the best and that's why we win. And some programs recruit kids in the middle and they develop kids when they get there. That's why they compete. Mm-hmm. So there's different styles in college programs, different styles in coaching staffs. Like there's developmental staffs and it's just like, we just go get the best players and go win. We're smart. We know how to do the X's and O's. We know X's and O's. Some people know how to get this kid better from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 to year 4.
So are you still coaching softball and baseball, or are you just doing the instructions off to the side?
So I consult teams. I work with college programs. I go in, I work with college programs that bring me in, whether we're doing technology implementation, working with technology, working with their staff to look at technology, to say, okay, here's what the technology is telling us. Here are the numbers for these particular athletes. Now let's create programs for this particular athlete based on what the data is telling us. So I do that. I also consult those same tech companies to help them to make those products better for the college level and for the amateur level and for the pro level. But in terms of teams, right now I'm coaching a team for the summer. I already quit already. I quit after the first tournament, but I'm gonna finish out the summer. I can't do it.
Tell us why.
You know what
you gotta hear more on that one.
I need to hear this one.
I'm done. So let me tell you what it is. So you know what it is? It's like when you were a player, you can control everything. When you coach a team, you don't control anything. Because you could prepare for this, prepare for that, prepare for that. We just went over this yesterday, and y'all screwed it up 17 times on the field the next day. You can't control that. So let me put it like this. I've grown. This is I think this is our third tournament here in Colorado. So like I've grown. I got to the point now. You know what? I'm not even gonna get mad. I'm not gonna get excited because y'all are who y'all are. But let's learn from what happened in that game, the previous game, and how we could be better and not make that same mistake again tomorrow in the next game. But I'm not gonna get stressed. I'm not gonna let y'all stress me out. I'm not gonna do it. I mean, it's easier. It's easier for me to just go to have come to your practice. Let's work and then go home. You got a game tomorrow. Good luck. I'm out.
Rob, you are not alone, bro. I think a lot of people don't want to be honest about the fact that, first of all, playing is not the same thing as training. Training is not the same thing as coaching. Coaching is not, it's all different. And you could be an expert at one and be like, oh, I'm at the beginning at another, right? And I know some people that weren't great players who become outstanding coaches. I know people who were outstanding players who are awful coaches. But the training craft, bro, I won't let you say anything negative about the way you do that. You do that.
So here's the deal. It's not that I'm not good at it. It's just that I don't like it. You understand what I'm saying? Like I've coached baseball teams. I've coached good baseball teams, 35-5. 18U. I took teams from 10U to 18U in baseball. On the softball side, I coached professional softball for the USSSA Pride for you. We won a national championship. I've done that, but I don't like doing it though. You know what I'm saying? And I'm at the point right now in my life where I'm only doing what I like to do. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not. If I don't like it, I ain't doing it.
Amen.
That's where I'm at.
Absolutely. I think that's huge. And Rick and I talk about this a lot, just like the self-awareness in that realization. When in your career, or like when has that become like, I'm not doing it anymore? Like, it sounds like you're still kind of in that right now, but yeah.
I think when you make a certain amount of money, or you get to a certain level, you get to pick who you don't have to work with. Or you get to pick what you don't have to do. I think sometimes in the beginning, you got to do some things that you don't really want to do. And then when you get to a certain level, it's like you get to a certain either a financial position where money doesn't dictate the jobs you take and the opportunities that you say yes to, and you have the ability you have the ability to say no to certain opportunities because that's where you are in your life. So I think I've earned that though. I mean, I paid my dues.
Hey, I hear
I paid my dues.
Absolutely.
When I started, this was a minimum wage. And then I got to a point where I could support my family.
Well,
educate my kids and everything. So
that's a good segue into, like, I want to, like, because we're from Chicago, right?
Yeah.
So you're out west a little bit. You're in Colorado.
No, I'm here. I'm in Colorado right now for a tournament, but I live on the East Coast. I live in the New York tri-state area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So talk to us about Complete Game, like the brand itself. Because I mean, you've written a book. I mean, you train it. Like, talk to us about the brand.
So I used to own a franchise for baseball and softball, the baseball and softball training center. They kind of boxed me in on how they wanted me to teach what I thought was right. And I just knew that there was more to it. There was other ways to teach. And I didn't feel like it was right to the kids. I understood why they wanted to box me in because they were franchising. So it made sense to have a system that everybody was teaching in. But in hitting and in softball, there's the science of hitting, and then there's the art of hitting. So the science is what you have to talk about because it's facts. And then the art is what you can get away with talking about because it's creativity.
Break that down for me.
I'm smart. I'm a nerd. I understand science. I understand physics. I understand the body, how it moves. I understand physical transitions, physiology. Those things are easy. You can read a book and you're an expert on it, right? You can go to college and be an expert on it. But then there's also, that's the science of hitting, right? So now the art of hitting is, even though that's biomechanically efficient and biomechanically scientifically true, this particular hitter can operate, function, and perform outside of the norm. And I have to have the ability as a creator to identify that and allow that hitter to be who they really are so they can perform at their maximum. Because being biomechanically perfect and efficient may not work best for those, especially when you're talking about elite athletes.
Right.
sometimes they got to get out of a box to be their best.
So the franchise, the box you're referring to, was a scientific box.
It was, and that's my foundation. But I learned everything that I needed to know about being a great teacher in that system. But I also need to be able to operate outside of it at the same time. Because people are people. It goes back to that human development thing. People are people, and I got to be able to hit them where they're at.
Yeah. Okay. So that's so you leave the franchise and then you just like boom, I'm starting complete game.
So here's what happened. Without going into the details, but I had a business partner, and I sometimes having a business partner isn't always the best move, because it might be good for at the time that you're in it, but then things may you may grow. One person may grow in one direction, and the other person may grow in a different direction, and for whatever reasons, and then you got to decide, that I should probably do this on my own. It's probably better that I do this on my own. It happens a lot in a lot of different fields. Happens in music. It happens in everything. So that's what happened, and I ended up starting my company called Complete Game, because Complete Game was a book first. Then it became an actual brand from the book. So the book is Complete Game. It came out in 2006, and the subtitle is The Emotional Dynamics of In-Game Focus, and that was based on really mostly mental skills in the mental game, and helping my athletes, because I knew that hitting was 80% mental, 20% probably physical, right? But we were focusing so much on the physical, but I knew that wasn't the issue. When I went out and watched elite athletes, I'm like, these people have grit. I want to be able to develop, teach, and I need to be able to challenge. And the only thing that can give you grit is adversity. If you haven't gone through adversity, you ain't never gonna have grit.
Oh, coach, you about to send us down a rabbit hole now, man.
Yeah, we can go down that hole anytime you want. That's the issue. Man. We got people out here, and here's the deal. If you look at the best athletes, they wake up in the zone. They have this inner drive that they already have that. You can't coach that. They have that. So you can identify. I can identify it. Okay, there's something about that kid right there. Something about that. He's different. So
yeah. That's to be fair, that's how I met JB. I mean, that's JB and I's story. I'm walking in. I'm trying to start my own program. I go around all these middle school games, and they all look the same except for that kid. Like
that kid.
Who's
that guy?
that was different. He's playing like it depends on something. Like it matters to him, and everything I've known about him in the last 14 years, everything matters. And I think that's what you're talking about. But I'm going to ask you. I got to push on that a little bit, because if you do it for a living, and what you presented to me on the screen is that you find that in every kid. So am I only seeing the best of the best? Or what do you do when you meet a kid who comes to you and says, hey, I got the same check. Here's a check. I want you to work with me. But they don't have it. What do you do?
So I think most people have it somewhere down on the inside of them. And it's like this, and it's like this. Yeah, I have two glasses of 2 cups of coffee, right? 1 cup of coffee has sugar on the bottom of it. The other cup of coffee has no sugar on the bottom of it. When you taste both of them, they both taste like they have no sugar. When you stir one, it's sweeter. When you stir the other one, it ain't gonna get sweet no matter how much you stir.
Where your hype button
most
at,
of my kids. So most of my kids that I work with, it's somewhere in there though. My job is to stir it up. The other kids, it don't matter how much I stir, because they're gonna go right back home to a mediocrity, a mediocre situation, to a school that caters to their mediocrity, and they're gonna be mediocre until they decide to not be mediocre, or until they go through some type of adversity that forces them to now all of a sudden have this switch that they can flip, or this switch that they can turn to become who I need them to be on the field to compete in that moment. Because some kids, some athletes, the moment never gets too big for them. Some kids, the smallest moment is too big for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and JB, jump in because I'm going to put on my dad hat for a second and just say, you know, I mean, you got kids, coach?
Yeah, I do. My kids are grown now.
Okay. So, yeah. So I got young
one played
kids,
sports,
man.
one didn't. Yep.
Okay. So I'm in the grind.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, you say you're from the Bronx. I'm from Baltimore, man. So we don't have to break it down. We just gotta look at each other. We know, right? Yep. We know. Okay. So but then you work hard and you're blessed and God provides for you. And then you're out of that. And that's what you wanted. That's why you did what you did. But when you get out of it, how do you manufacture the same grit that you earned when you were there? For my kid, like I put a post on my social the other day where I took my kids to the Cubs game. When they walked up to see Wrigley Field for the first time at age 6, they didn't blink. It was like nothing. It was like, yeah, this is what we're doing. This is Father's Day. We're going to the Cubs game.
Right.
I didn't see a major league ballpark till I was 20-something. My family couldn't afford it. You know what I mean? So, like, I cannot, no matter how hard I try, I cannot manufacture life adversity for my kid because me and my wife are doing too well. So how do we do it as coaches? How do you get kids to embrace adversity when they come from comfortable situations?
I don't think anybody embraces adversity.
Hey.
You don't embrace it; it happens, and you figure it out. And you don't get to protect your kids from adversity because it's gonna happen, and that's how they're gonna develop who they are based on how much. But what you do hope for, what you do pray for, is that I hope that my children experience adversity, and I hope that they have the wherewithal and the capacity to actually handle it. I just hope that it's not going to be too much for them. That's what we hope for. That whatever adversity happens to befall them, because that's what's going to make them stronger. Though, what else is there? What else is there? We think that we're giving our kids more by we're going to make this perfect for you. We're going to make sure you got the best of this, the best of that. There's not going to be any issues. You're not going to have to deal with what I dealt with when I grew up. No, they're going to have to deal with something. You got to hope they do. Otherwise, they're going to be a failure in life. That's facts.
Yeah.
Because it's funny because when I go to like college coaches, I'm like, okay, coach, think about your best 2 players on your team. You got them in your head now. You thinking about them? You're not thinking about the 2 players on your team that you have to worry about if they're not going to get themselves into some kind of trouble at night. You're like, oh, they better be in their room. It's the same players.
Yeah.
It's the same 2 players.
Yeah.
It's something about those kids that they're just hardwired a little bit differently. And it's either because of their environment, or they just had something that they were born with an innate quality.
Yeah. JB, I know he mentioned that intersection between the mind game and the physical game. I know that's your space, man. So I don't want you to,
Yeah, absolutely. So like one of the things like we're going to dive into a lot is just like the environment and environment crafting. And you're talking about player development and parent development at that 10U age. How much focus do you put on the environment and teaching about setting up an environment, like a morning routine, end routine, like setting up those boundaries to have the mental space to go inside? Because I think one thing a lot of us struggle with is everything is go, go, go. And the only way to actually like truly go inside and take, like, you have to take time to pause, and we don't pause. How do you bring that into coaching and environment crafting?
So, that's so good. So I'm all about environment. And one thing that I found about environment all right, I'm in a facility. You bring in your 9-year-old to come hit. Right. You bring your 9-year-old to come and do a hitting session with me. First of all, I don't do one-on-ones. Everything is group. You're not that special. Neither is your kid. Get over it. Your kid ain't that special, and neither are you. You're going to hit with them, and I don't care if that person's horrible or if that kid's an All-American. You're all hitting the same group. So if you're 19 and she's 9, let's go. That 9-year-old needs to see what it looks like anyway. And I'm not teaching y'all nothing different. And you're not competing against each other, so let's go. That's one. Two, that 9-year-old that takes the swing looks back to see if their mom is looking. Looks back to see if they're I'm either going to actually ask the dad to please leave the room. Because I had a 16-year-old that did it before. I'm like, stop looking at you. She didn't even realize she was doing it. She goes, you just did it again. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Your mom. So the parents walked out the room. So they don't even realize it sometimes. The umbilical cord. So environment. These kids have not even. Every time they turn around, there's a camera on. I'm like, parents, you have to film every swing they take. You have to video everything. Why? You're never going to look at those videos ever again anyway. Let them just go be kids. Stop putting the pressure on them. Or they're filming my bat. I got to hit a home run now. Or, I struck out. They filmed that. Everything is, it's just, the environment needs to be what it needs to be. It needs to be more organic. It needs to be more real. It needs to be less emphasis on outcomes and more emphasis on process. Because our kids have become like outcome oriented to the point where they're stressed out about outcomes and they're forgetting that there's a whole process that has to happen that you've worked on, but because you're so outcome driven, you've forgotten about that process that gets you to the outcome anyway. So I'm trying to build process driven kids, and then here's the camera, outcome. And I tell my kids in front of parents, outcomes are for the parents, process is for you.
Hey, I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot because that's so true. AGB mentality. That's what we're doing. Always get better. It's a continuous process, and it never actually stops. It doesn't.
It never stops.
But if you are results driven, then sometimes it has a stop in it, because if you don't get the result that you want, it has an immediate reaction of negativity to it, and you're then inclined to think about, well, I don't want to do this anymore. But when you take that 2% approach, that 1% approach, or whatever, it's all about the journey. Man, this thing, I'm 40 something. It don't stop. I'm learning piano. I'm learning teach me, So I love that, man. And like I was saying to you off air, these conversations seem as though we've talked before. Of course you came on to validate what we're not. It's just you're doing what you're doing over there. We're doing what we're doing over here, but because we understand what really matters, it just sinks. But I want you to talk directly to the parent, man, because that's one of our goals, right? We want to talk to the coaches, parents, and athletes. We want to love on all of them, but we also want to hold them all accountable. Mm-hmm. So what can they do? Because it's not coming from a malicious place. Like this is not them. They're not trying to make their career harder. They actually think they're
happy. It's all coming from love.
Yeah.
And but sometimes just because it's all coming from love doesn't mean it was best for the players though. So I advise every parent to look into hiring a mental skills coach who specializes in sports parenting and get a consultation on how to be a better sports parent. Yeah. I advise you to all do that, every single one of you. It'll be the best money spent. And if you really love your kid, and if you can handle a little bit of criticism for the benefit of your kid, you do it.
Beautiful, man. It's so well said, man. I got, I don't know how much time you have, man. I don't want to keep up too much of your time. I got about 2 more questions that are in the baseball space, and I want to kind of get into some life stuff. Yeah. But JB, anything else on that mindset and the environment, the skill of hitting versus, because I'm going into like techniques and technology next, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I would love anything from like the complete game, from like a headspace, mental space, anything that you use or coach or references, because we're always pulling out other references. Like James Clear is a big mental one for us. Anything out there for our listeners?
I think mental preparation, sleep. I think people underestimate the importance of sleep and how effective, how much better your cognitive process can be when you have the right amount of sleep. It's a sufficient amount of sleep. There's been studies done. The NBA just did a study. That's why they have 2-game series now, because the guys are sleepy. You get out of a 10:30 game at night, 11 o'clock. What you gonna go eat? Nothing. Now you're up late eating. Then you gotta get up, fly here. Stay in the city for a couple of days. Play 2 games in a row. then go to a nearby city instead of going to Philly, flying like over there, then coming back to New York. What's that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it wears on your cognition, and your cognition wears on how fast you can, just the speed of how you can react and respond in sports, focus levels. So I think sleep is very underrated. It's something that we have to take a hard look at, because I think because we're all trying to fit it all in and have time to be on our phones and do social media, especially our kids. I heard somebody say, we want our kids to go to sleep the day before of a game. So if we have a game tomorrow, you should have went to sleep yesterday. Because a lot of them up to 1:30, 2.
Yeah.
They scrolling through social, that it's just what it is. It's the time. But if I have expectations from you, and I have elite expectations of you, you got to at least sleep right. And I think the other thing is going to be nutrition. I think nutritionally, we got to have those conversations with the players that are not in shape. Kids don't buy groceries. Adults buy groceries. So whatever you bring in the house, that's what they're going to eat.
I'm gonna hype that one up real quick. I'm big on wellness and whole foods and just like processed foods like that. Go in the grocery store with a plan, and I love that you're bringing that into it. Like Adam, 100%.
Because how you gonna tell me you're an elite athlete? That's what you eating? That's what you eating that? What time you went to bed?
You get away with it now. I remember, yeah.
Wait, you went to bed at what time? You eating that? And now you want to try to tell me you? Nah, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. You either in or you're out. Which one? Which one you want to be? What side of the fence are you on? So the first place when I land, the first thing I do when I land is I put together a grocery list to be delivered to the hotel. You saves you money, and you're eating fresh quality food instead of let me go get this processed food. How are you performing on that?
That's a tidbit right there for all of you guys, because this stuff. The reason I love about this podcast, it is not just about basketball. It's not just about baseball. It's not about that's fire for whatever sport you're on, because we're all traveling. Like there is no more going outside and then playing for your high school team. Everybody's joining a travel program, and we're all going around the Midwest and East and all that, and we're staying in the hotels with our parents. Everybody's doing it, and I've been there for 15 years. I was on that grind, and we're all ordering pizza after the game. We're all doing it, and so you're saying get there, get the groceries, get a team mom, get the groceries.
I got the same list on my phone from Instacart. So when I go to a new town, we're in Colorado now. When we got to go to Atlanta next. When I get to Atlanta, Instacart, nearest grocery store, take that whole grocery list, put it right in my cart. Right when the plane lands. By the time I get my car and get to the hotel or the Airbnb where I'm staying, boom, my food's at the door, sitting outside the door. When I got in here, my food was sitting right outside the door when I pulled up. I just threw it in the refrigerator.
You just lit me up on the business side though. So what you're doing with Complete Game, you're not staying stationary and having people come to you. You're going around the country and then saying, "Hey, we're coming. If you want to work with us, we'll be in your city this time." Like you're like a rock star for hitting.
So let me tell you,
it's a tour schedule.
You're on the Beyonce Jay-Z tour right now. Okay.
So we call them drops. Okay. Right? So I did the Colorado drop, and the Colorado drop is only available for like my members. Like you get first dibs. If you're a member, whether you're an IG paid subscriber or whether you're a member on my website, a paid member on the website monthly, then you get first dibs on the drops. So today was the first. I did two. Yeah, I did one I did for my regular players. Everybody's in Colorado this week. It's one of the biggest showcases in the country. There's like 800 to 900 teams here. Every college coach in the country is here in Colorado. I mean, at least Division One, probably some Division Threes and Twos too, but definitely every Division One team is here in Colorado, either fully represented by their entire staff or at least one representative of their staff is here. So all my followers are here. So what we did was we put up, I rented some space from a local facility. Shout out to the Colorado Angels facility. I used that facility today. And then on my site, I created registration forms and paywalls, and you reserve a spot. And then we filled it up. So we sold out. All my spots were sold out. We had 2 today. We had one 10-player class, one 4-player class today. Tomorrow I got 2 teams. One team is from Tennessee. The other one's from Carolina tomorrow. Then we play Tuesday, Wednesday. And then Thursday I have 3 more groups that all sold out. And then I'll do my Atlanta drop because my next stop is Atlanta. Then my next stop is LA. So every time I go to a city, if I can, I'll try to make myself available to the people that supported me on social media, so they can get a little bit of a taste of the live show.
That's awesome, man.
Mhm.
When you come to Chicago, man, you let us know, man.
Oh, definitely. I'll let you know. We definitely
I'll use my contacts, man.
Chicago's one of my favorite cities. That's one of my favorite
we
cities.
got you, bro. You come here, I'll help you get a facility, man. We'll get some.
Bet.
I mean, I'm a big supporter, man. Let's do it.
That's a bet.
All right, man. So back to the craft, right? Because one of the things we do, so we want to do the care, we want to do the holistic experience. But one of the things we do on our path, and I love how you said everybody should hire someone that can do this, because that's what AGB's coaching is all about. So at one point on our path, we're going to get back to competence. Like, we don't think you can get to confidence without competence. Like, at some
confidence. Point. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So confidence is the goal, right? So this, when you have a confident athlete, they're on their way. So, but to get to confidence, that's like, how do I do that?
How do I get there?
Right. So we know that competence helps. So the more competent you get at a particular craft, the more confident you get. So just on the competent side of swinging a baseball bat, how much of it are you using technology versus old school approach?
Both, because the technology validates what I know that I know. Some things are not measurable with the human eye, not even video. Those things I'm using. I'm really leaning into technology, and I'm using a thing called 3D motion capture. You know, where we place sensors on all different parts of the body to kind of measure whether it's how the body sequences, ground force reaction, things like that we can never measure with the naked eye, to give us feedback to see exactly how much force and power that an athlete's generating. So that's the deeper end of technology. But just in basic stuff, like that kid has a fast bat. That bat speed, now let's just see what it is. I know it's fast, exactly what is it? And then by looking at them just with the eye test, like you're saying, I can tell that player is swinging at 120%, which is way too fast. You're not going to be able to play at that speed, at that putting out that much effort. It needs to be down like 80%, 85%.
I need you to break that down for me, because I saw that in one of your clips.
So
and I said to myself, I'm gonna ask him about that, because you said
so LeBron James, I put it in basketball terms. LeBron James plays the game at 85%,
right?
Which is the reason why he probably has the least amount of injuries that anybody has ever had that played as long as he's played. You don't even hear about him being on a disabled list, even at this age, because he plays the game at 85%. So a hitter is going to have more accuracy with their barrel and better quality of contact at 80 to 85%, because there's always going to be a speed accuracy trade-off. I drive my car too fast, I have less control. I drive my car at 40, I have more control of it.
Yeah.
So and less problems with it if I'm going hard like that. So I think me being able to teach an athlete how to generate a lot more power with an easier swing is my thing. So the question becomes, how easy can you swing hard? That's the key.
That's a great sentence. How easy can you swing hard? And you're right. It is basketball related. It's, if you're navigating pick and roll at full speed, you're going to make the wrong decision. You have to navigate pick and roll at a medium speed at best, and then you can switch speeds.
Yeah.
But I confuse the baseball front, because when I think about baseball, I think about there's another component. There's a pitcher coming at you, which I wanted to ask you about too. Do you work with pitchers? And then what's your thought on that? I mean, they're working with somebody, and their job is to get that ball by you, and you fail 70% of the time.
So I'm a trained player development person. So I teach everything. But however, I don't.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I can look at a pitcher and I can work with. I started working with a lot of baseball pitchers. I worked with baseball pitchers for a long time. Because I learned biomechanics, I learned the movements, I learned how the body works, I learned this is how it should not look, this is how it should look, this is what has to happen, this is what sequence, this is what should happen in, this is what's going to get you hurt, this is what's not going to get you hurt. Then I started working with softball pitchers a little bit. Then I kind of just lean more into hitting, and I stopped working with baseball pitchers altogether. So, and nowadays the way that the baseball pitching market is going, it could be dangerous. That you can get yourself into a pretty bad lawsuit if you're working with a kid and that kid goes out and get hurt. They could always say, "Oh well, I started doing what he told me to do, and now I'm hurt.
Mm.
I'm not doing that. You guys can have that.
Yeah.
I'm good. It ain't worth it.
Yeah, people do play that blame game out there a
You know what I'm
lot.
saying? So yeah, that's that. But yeah, play development, the whole game, base running, team dynamics, outfield play, first step quickness. No, those are all things that I love to teach and love working with athletes on just the little small finer points of the game that can take you from either bad to good or from good to great.
The whole game, pan way out to the sport that you love. You good with the direction it's going? You know, they got the pitch clock up. They got, you know, the different things that are trying to speed the game, modernize the game. You good with that, or you like the old school?
So I'm a baseball purist. Like I'm the kind of guy that I go to Cooperstown and I just start crying looking at everything. I grew up collecting baseball cards, caring about the stats. Back when players stayed on one team for 20 years, and but I also understand progress. I also understand evolution. Even though I can't stand it and I don't agree with it, I understand that that's where it is. So if I'm teaching a kid that comes in and they're seeing modern baseball, this is what they see on TV. So that's baseball to them. That's not baseball to me. So I have to teach them the game the way that they're perceiving it. But I'm also going to kind of squeeze in some of those things that they're probably not getting right now, but they're probably going to need that come from the old way that we played. Like they call it, quote unquote, playing the game the right way. You know, having a respect for the game and things like that. I don't think that's talked about that much anymore. But you know, that's something that I talk to when I'm working with the young guys and stuff. So,
JB, can I ask you to jump in on that? Right, you're 28. You know, are you good with a flash? Like, can I flip my bat? Can I bring some energy? Can I get the, you know, the internet power? Look at, because you know, like 3 hours, right? I mean, what 23-year-old, 25-year-old is going to spend 3 hours watching a baseball game? Most of them are getting what they get in short bursts. So if I see Jazz flip his bat, that's entertaining, no?
I mean, I sit with a hype button on my desk. So, like me personally, I love the sprinkle into a season that is as long as baseball is, and as the games are as long as they are. So I agree, though. Like I like the history and like the just like baseball and everything that it embodies. But I think from a viewership standpoint and engagement standpoint, they have to try new things, and I like to see what they're sprinkling in, but from like a showboating or, you know, bat flipping and all that stuff, I think there's a fine line of like hyping up your teammates and just being a cocky douchebag. So like I think there's always going to be that, you know, and so that's my take from it, from like a viewership engagement. I love to see it, but from a yeah.
And I understand that MLB, NBA, NFL, they're all in the business of sports. They're not just out there playing for the love of the game. We're trying to make money. We're trying to make billions. And fan engagement, pre-game, in-game, post-game, off-season, like all of that matters. I understand that. And I think when we have a new, and in order, like to your point, in order for us to keep the new fan engaged, you got to give them what they want.
Yeah.
Without compromising the integrity of the game at the same time, and it just kind of treading that line, treading that line, real carefully.
So that leads me to a question I want to ask you, and then after that we'll get into the other stuff we talked about, and then we'll let you go, man. But the okay, so the business of sport versus sport.
Yeah.
Right. So sport is supposed to be, like you said, they used to play for 20 years for the same team, or you and I, we would play for our high school, and that meant something to us to play for that team. Nowadays, these kids, the minute you say something they don't like, they will leave and go to another program. There's so many programs they can go to. So on the youth level, how do we reconcile business and sport? Because a friend of mine, let me just give you this context. A friend of mine said, well, Rick, if I go into Best Buy and I give them $100, I expect something in return. If they don't give me what I want, I'll go to another store. I said, well, yes, in business that makes sense, but in sport, you're supposed to. There's loyalty. There's sticking through. There's teammates. There's finishing what you started. But a lot of that's not being taken into account. So how do you reconcile those two things?
Okay, so when I coached baseball teams, we had 2 12-year teams, 3 14-year teams, a couple 16s, and a couple 18s. And I had an actual contract that players and parents had to sign. And this was the way I wanted to do it. Here's what it is. Can you commit to that? If you miss one practice, you sit 2 games. Nobody's going on vacation until the season's over. Here's when it's over. You're going to book something, book it after that date. Then I got to a point where I remember I was sitting in a restaurant where one of my assistant coaches, and I was saying, I don't know that we can coach the game the way we want to coach it and still keep our players because they're going to quit. So we're going to have to bring it down a little bit because we want them to still play the game. Because if we don't, somebody else is going to replace us. That's going to give them what they want, and they're not going to be as good as for them as we are for them. So we did that. I got to the point where I was like, you know what? Don't come to my game an hour before the game, 30 minutes before the game, warm up. I'm not even doing a book. Just play. I'm not keeping stats, but just let's just have fun. And when I did that, we played better. I hated it. I hated it. But they played better. So then I realized that the game isn't really for us. It's for them. And then when they grow older and they want to become coaches, they have to realize that next generation is not really for them. It's for the next generation. I was having a conversation a couple of days ago about you put so much into these kids, then you get them, you help them, and then they get recruited, and then they leave. You know they're going to leave because they came to you because you were good at getting them recruited and getting them prepared for college. But as soon as they get there and they sign their little letter of intent, then they're going to go want to play for the mediocre team and quit because they don't want to live up to the same standard that got them there, which is going to be the reason why they sit the bench in college. But you can't tell them that. But so you have to find a way. You got to find your why as a coach. Like, why do I do this? One, because I love it. One, because I think I can make it a positive impact on kids. I can change lives. Am I changing lives? That for me, that's what it is. Now everybody may have a different reason. Because a lot of teams, AAU basketball, travel softball, travel baseball, it's become a business, and people who are really good at it have created a business. They've created business models. So yeah, we're making money, but we're also changing lives. Because sometimes people associate with, if you're making a lot of money, you can't be good. You could be both. Right. You could be both.
Right.
you should get paid because if that's what you do, that's all you do, and that's your livelihood. You should get paid for what you do. But you want to be able to give the athletes, their families, a value proposition at the same time. And we're constantly making it better. And we're constantly getting input from you guys on how we can make it better. But we're also constantly in tune with what's next in the industry. What's next? What are my kids going to need next? Is it the next form of technology? Is it things that are going to make them better mentally and cognitively? You got all these things out here that are testing athletes with, which we'll talk about off air. It's called S2 cognition. You gotta check this out. If you haven't heard of it, you gotta check it out. It does an assessment on the cognition of athletes, so we can learn how to better coach them to what their cognitive abilities say that they can and cannot do, and it gives them like scores. It's crazy. It's really good. So there's all kinds of things out here that we're searching for to help us make us better coaches, so that we can give our players and our families more value.
Yeah,
and take it to another level. Always trying to take it to another level.
Right. So the same thing you're trying to teach them, you input into your own life, into your own business. You want them to get better.
Absolutely.
So that's a good segue into that last piece. I like look, we human, man. You running a great business. You doing a great thing. I started off the thing telling everyone how impressed I am with you, man. I just but I think it's good for us when we get to this level to then go ahead and just be human and say, you know what? Yes, I am. However, I still have questions about this. I still have this goal. I still have an inner voice in my head that I'm fighting off. So help us with that so that these young people don't feel like they're alone in that. So right now, is in your life where you are in your business, what's next, and what are you insecure about when it comes to your goals?
I just got to the point where in my business where I started to realize my own value. And that was because of someone else that had to tell me, no, you're good. You charge way too less money. You should be charging way more. I don't know if it was because I didn't have the confidence to think that I could charge more. I don't know if it's because I was just content and complacent. It could be a combination of all three. But I do know that I'm starting to realize at this point in my life that I am good, very good, and I should be getting paid for it. And nobody, I mean, what are we worth? I don't know, but I'm worth more than I thought I was. Put it that way, in terms of monetarily, So I think that comes from one, self-love, two, knowledge of myself, self-knowledge, self-awareness, and then probably fourth is like now when you have those three things in happening, I can share myself differently.
You see how that works? You see how that works, JB? It's such a beautiful thing, man. Like when something is true, you don't have to lead somebody to it. They just don't tell you. Because that's what we're all about, man. We're all about teaching people that if you're self-love, you're self-aware, it actually turns into selfless. Like that's when my book comes out, it's going to be called The Selfless Power of Selfishness.
Wow.
Right? Because people don't understand, like, if you are selfish in the right way, it actually fills you up so much. I'm gonna get a little biblical here, so bear with me. But like your cup runneth over. Like you have too much and you just want to give to other people. But when you sit on your phone and you're feeling depressed all the time and you're feeling bad about yourself and you're not taking care of yourself, you can't be there for somebody else. It's impossible. So I love hearing you say that, bro. That's good stuff.
Next time I come on, we're gonna go biblical and we're gonna talk about the spiritual aspects of athletic performance. We're gonna go there next time.
In, bro. I'm in.
We could have went there.
We got there too late, man. We're 52 minutes in, bro.
I put it on the note. It said, "Thank God for like these skills and stuff," and I was like, "Oh, how does the spiritual lens play into how you coach and teach?" And it sounds like it's a huge role. And
absolutely. We got to talk about that.
It's a huge role for Rick.
You know what the first sports were? The Olympics. You know why they like the torch? The Olympics, athletes and sports, they performed and they competed to give homage and give respect to the gods. Sports comes from that. It comes from that.
I love that.
That's where it came from. The only reason why they competed was to please the gods. That's it.
That's it. You're right. It's a Greek. Yeah, Greek.
If you go back and look at the history of Greek sports in Greece and how the whole Olympic thing started, that's where it came from. Got to go back to the origin of it. What are we doing now? I don't know.
Yeah. Hey,
going away from the origin of it.
We doing this again, Rob. I'm telling you, man. You made a friend today, bro. We're gonna do this again. I'll come on yours. You could be a regular on ours, man, because we're trying to bring the heat to parents, coaches, and athletes everywhere. Yep. And you guys got to go follow him, man. Right now, wherever you are, go to his Instagram. Go to find this guy. Complete Game. Watch him. This is my favorite one. I gotta tell him real quick. This dude put himself. You put yourself in the swing path of one of those girls and said, if you trust me, I'll trust you. I know you're not going to hit me because you have to come inside. I said, this dude is brave. And he knows what he's doing, man.
All right.
I love it. Appreciate the time, Robin. We'll talk to you next time.
All right, man. Keep in touch.
Yes, sir.
All right.